Welcome, welcome. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing fine.
Very good, sir. Jolly good.
Oh, yeah.
This is Wonderbread, DTArtman and Movies, episode 2. We're back, and we are going to talk about another movie today. What's our movie for today, Derek?
Today we're here to talk about Gravity, which stars Sandra Bullock and George Clooney.
Oh boy, Gravity. Yeah, one of the reasons why we decided to talk about this today instead of a more negatively reviewed movie is because we want to change things up a little bit. With Batman vs. Superman, we decided to give it a slightly more positive score. Gravity, as we both think, is a little bit overrated.
But don't get us wrong, it's a very solid film.
Yeah, I'm going to go on record, and I'm going to say that I like this movie. I like it quite a bit. To the date of making this video, it's got a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be that high, though. Movies that are in the 90s are like some of the, by definition in terms of math scores, are some of the best all-time movies. I don't think Gravity is one of the best all-time movies, though.
No, I mean, if we're going by soundbite, yeah, I can see where someone would say it's a very good movie, sound-wise.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, we've known throughout time that there's not much noise in space, and for them to make that kind of sounds while Sandra Bullock and George Clooney were in space was just amazing.
Yeah, like any geek is going to be like, there's no sound in space, but like they personalize everything by whenever they hit an object, they can hear it in their suit and everything, and that I thought was a nice idea. Let's talk about the positives first, and then go into the negatives, because, well, as far as positives go, this movie has brilliant visual effects, and anybody who knows me well knows I don't prefer visual effects to the fullest extent, but when they're used properly, it can really transform your movie. I would rather use visual effects to extensively tell a story than use a story to extensively tell visual effects.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't want to reverse the two.
Oh, no, of course not, because the story is the main focal point of your movie. And otherwise, what's the point of even doing one if you're not going to get the story right, if you just care about the effects? No offense to everybody who likes special effects, but I just care more about story.
It's not what's most important.
Yeah.
Once again, characters and story you got to put first, which is actually what I'm going to be criticizing about this movie a little bit, but the movie's good, very good visual effects, some solid performances in it, very good cinematography as well. There's lots of long take shots in this movie without the camera cutting, and yeah, a lot of it is CGI integrated, but your actors still have to perform regardless, and them performing for like 10 minutes straight is a really impressive feat they achieve. Now, one of the negatives though about this movie, I feel like I have to get out of the way. It has probably one of the best opening scenes in the past 13 years or 15 years of movies, and it's all a one shot. It's a music swell, a crescendo where it actually hurts your ears, and then you cut to silence in space. And then after that, it's an unbroken 13-minute long shot about like what they're doing up there and blah, blah, blah. Here's the negative part about that though. Yeah. The best part about the movie is the first 13 minutes. And then it slowly starts to dissipate in quality.
I thought so too. But for the most part, I kind of like the really good concept of the movie, because when they got caught in that mess, when the satellite stopped functioning, when it blew up, you see Sandra Bullock's character keep floating backwards or keep spinning backwards through space, and that's the really scary part about it, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah. Very tense movie, very thrilling. It's probably one of your quintessential sci-fi thrillers. It's not an action film, it's not a drama, it's a straight up nail-biting thriller, and audiences they like to be thrilled, so that's part of the reason why the movie succeeded.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I say that the best part of the movie is the first is there's all hell breaks loose, there's all that debris, it's crazy. Every single time I watch that part of the movie, I get goosebumps.
So do I.
There's a really tense music score of violent strings playing, and then there's the heavy breathing and everything. But a lot of the movie is filler though. Like there's some shots in space where they're just moving along, and It's lots of dialogue. We get to understand the characters more, where they're coming from. That takes place, I want to say 70% of the runtime though, and it's a little disappointing. And I sound like one of those idiots who only craves action. But if you do your opening scene like that, it's okay to take a break, but then keep a steady pace throughout the movie as far as intensity happening, and not just make it filler.
I get where you're coming from, I do. But at the same time, you gotta slow things down a bit because you don't want to have it fast paced all throughout the movie.
True.
And plus, it'll make the audience like run out of breath when they see the film.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Sometimes it is a good thing, but other times it's not really a good thing.
Okay.
I've seen movies where it does that, and it didn't pay off too well.
Well, if we're talking about sci-fi movies, one of the reasons why I like Terminator 2 more than most everything else in the world is because the movie has perfectly evenly paced material in it. It starts off incredibly strong, remains incredibly strong for like the first 30 minutes. You know, we don't get bored at all. It slows up a little bit, but then it's like a heartbeat month. There's like little spikes in between, and they're never spaced out too far from each other. Does that make sense? There's lots of stuff happening, and then they take another break, and then there's lots of stuff happening, then they take another break. It's very evenly paced out, whereas Gravity, it's one massive spike, 2/3 of the movie, one massive spike, and then another 2/3, and then... Yeah, the movie's only 90 minutes long, so I don't want to give it too much crap for that, but if, for the sake of avoiding that kind of structure and pace, it adds some more content, you know? Add some kind of set piece that helps with that even pacing. That's a minor issue, though.
I would say Aliens also did a good job of handling its pace.
Aliens does have slower pace than Terminator 2. If we're talking about James Cameron movies, those are his two magnum opus movies, by the way. Aliens and T2, hands down. Aliens takes more time with Ripley.
And with Newt.
Yeah, it takes more time with them, and it's more simplistic. It's slower. He didn't have that much of a budget back then. But regardless of that,
to make that kind of movie with the kind of budget he had is just impressive enough for me.
Yeah, if you adjust for inflation, I think Aliens costs about $40 million today. That's mind-boggling how they fit a small budget compared to today's big action blockbusters,
and they made
it better than every other blockbuster that we have today, or most of them. But.
Deadpool has done that as well.
Well, sure.
I mean, it's not a sci-fi movie. Don't get me wrong, but if we're gonna count movies that had like smaller budgets and they ended up being huge, Deadpool is definitely in that category.
I guess. But let's talk about Academy Awards.
Don't mean to go off the rails.
Yeah, let's talk about Academy Awards and why they can sometimes overhype a movie and make it overrated.
Oh yeah, I've seen
So Gravity was nominated like 13 times, whatever.
Yeah.
Like Best Picture, Director, Best Actress for Sandra Bullock. Okay, you're America's sweetheart, Sandra Bullock, but I liked you a lot. I liked you a lot better in The Blind Side for like performance-wise. In this, it's mainly just like, you know, playing yourself, except with lots of heavy breathing. And maybe there was like a short list for, you know, Best Actress nominees that year. So they just thought, oh, let's pick Sandra Bullock because that was a great movie. I think that's maybe what happened.
Yeah.
I'm not trashing her performance in any way, shape, or form. I just don't think it's Oscar worthy though.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one.
Like something compared to that would be Oscar worthy would be, you know, Ellen Ripley from Aliens, because she was nominated back then.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver.
There was a lot for her to do with her character in that movie, whereas in this one, all we get from her is like backstory with no flashbacks. I would have loved to see some flashbacks of her and her daughter in that movie.
Yeah.
They might have filmed it, but then taken it out of the movie because it affected the pacing, made it a little bit too slow. But
yeah.
If you're going to nominate Sandra Bullock, have a better reason to do so. And I think having some kind of flashback scene that takes place on Earth instead of this taking 100% in space might have helped with that.
I digress,
though.
Yeah. I also don't agree with it being nominated for Best Picture either.
Well,
I mean, I can see why, but
I can see they made a shitload of money and it got all the great reviews. And sometimes, kind of like Titanic, when it makes a shit ton of money and it gets mostly good reviews, the Academy is just like, hey, let's nominate that because we're power to the people. But,
and add to that, I don't like the ending of Titanic. I'm sorry. Just to throw that out there. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a nice love story. But the ending, though, come on. I think most of you would pretty much agree that he could have survived. It's like, come on, dude.
like you could take out the entire subplot of Bill Paxton and the modern day time. You could take that out of the movie and it wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah.
But that's Titanic. As far as Gravity goes,
I'm at the ending with Leo DiCaprio and the door and Catherine Heffron.
Yeah,
that thing. I'm like, because they proved that theory countless of times that he could have survived on that.
Another thing that upsets me a little bit about Gravity is that it's if we're talking about endings, the ending of Gravity, it felt like a pointless attempt at more tension building.
Yeah.
Like if you had all of your tension in that in the final sequence where she's plummeting towards Earth and everything, and then she took her first awkward steps on Earth, that might have been more interesting than having her trying to get out of the water.
Yeah.
Because like your audience is very sophisticated. Your audience is very sophisticated, and they're not gonna. I kid you not. Nobody, when I was watching this movie in the theaters, nobody was like, "Oh my God, is she gonna make it?" Nobody was biting their fingernails.
Because we've seen that before.
Yeah.
And it comes off as a bit cliche.
Yeah, it was predictable. It was not terribly interesting. It's like, oh no, she's water, but she's made it this far. Why would they kill her?
Yeah.
There's not too much tension there.
No.
So it felt like another pointless scene that they tried to add tension. There's lots of great tension before in space and everything because we actually don't know if she's going to survive, she's going to live. We're constantly on the edge of our seats. This last scene, because of the way the movie's been building up to it, it's like there's no tension.
No, there isn't.
It's
just, I'm glad. I'm like, I'm looking at the ending of the movie and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm glad she made it. But I kind of can see that coming from a mile away, considering how they set it up.
Yeah, and then something to the exact opposite of that actually had me on the edge of my seat. This is a major spoiler for the Defenders miniseries. So, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, you've been warned.
Yeah, trust me.
Daredevil, at the end of the Defenders, the final episode, building collapses on him, so as an audience, we actually think he dies. And I'm just like, oh shit, did they actually kill Daredevil? I felt kind of stupid afterwards because they confirmed season 3. But the point of the matter is that was an unexpected thing to happen. And for like 10 minutes straight, but until they reveal the final shot, it's like, oh my God, did they actually kill him?
I think I know why they did it that way. I might be on the verge of something. So coming from me as a comic book reader, I see how they set it up because I feel like in season 3 of Daredevil, they're going to do the Born Again storyline, which is basically, it's too much to explain right now.
If you're a comic book fan,
you know what I'm talking about.
Then you'll know what he's talking about. But yeah, so the point of that is that the show, there's lots more content to fit in the show because it's a miniseries, and sometimes that can be an unfair comparison to a movie. But the fact that they executed that in that way put the audience on the edge of their seats.
Yes.
And they said, "Oh, did they kill him?
Yeah.
They're gonna kill him." And then it's like, "Oh, okay."
He wakes up in a hospital bed.
They did not kill him. I don't feel any of that kind of tension with the ending scene of Gravity. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I feel like, oh, she's going to make it out.
Yeah.
She's going to be okay. It's like,
yeah.
really?
Now, like these could be considered minor nitpicks, but like when you've got an A-list cast, when you've got an A-list director, an A-list cinematographer, top of the line visual effects, there's always room to improve the little things. And that can be said for every movie, but the climax of your film should be the most powerful. And when she was plummeting towards Earth, there was lots of fair tension that like she's not gonna make it, blah blah.
Yeah.
Just take out that one scene where it's like, oh no, I gotta get up for air because the water's coming in.
Yeah, I would have just left that out. I would have just left that out and just have her get out the ship and swim to land.
Yeah, back more on the positive side of things. We talked a little bit about the long shots in this movie and how they make up most of the entertainment value. Because we as film students, if you can film something and put it into a long take, that shows dedication and and practice and effort and memorization. There's lots of cool things to be recognized by that.
I'm a fan of long takes. I like how they're used in certain films. Like, for example, Martin Scorsese, how he uses it in his films.
Yeah, the Steadicam shots and Goodfellas, and
Yeah.
it's good stuff. So for Gravity, I talked to my physics teacher back a couple years ago when the movie was out, when I was still in high school. I talked to my physics teacher, and she, like, when George Clooney has to let go just to have her survive, I thought that was, when I watched it in theaters, I thought, okay, that's emotionally effective and they got to do that for the movie. Scientifically, though, apparently he didn't have to do that. But I'm going to let the director go on that, because you got to change some scientific aspects for the sake of entertainment.
Oh, of course.
There have been very scientifically accurate movies, but there's always one or two things that you got to expunge for the sake of movie going.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I'll let you off with that, Mr. Alfonso Cuarón. But George Clooney is, he's fine. He plays George Clooney in this movie.
He's not right.
It's okay. I don't have a beef with him. I don't have a beef with Sandra Bullock either. She gave a good performance, not Oscar caliber.
I just feel like it's a little overrated.
Yeah. I thought the movie would have been more interesting if they had like a third character surviving with him, but then he was killed like 2/3 of the way through the movie. Because if we're talking about being emotionally effective, that also could have helped out with the pacing. There was that guy from India in the beginning of the movie who was all around on the tether and everything. Is this great or what?
And then he died.
And then he dies immediately. Like he seemed like a fun character.
Yeah.
Keep him around a little bit. I mean, sure, you gotta give Sandra Bullock and George Clooney their screen time, because they're the top billed actors. But like, having a third character can add a lot of substance if he's likable, and immediately he's likable because he's apparently this genius who graduated at a very prestigious university, and he's goofing around on the space shuttle. Like,
and then he ends up getting killed.
That's actually comedic and funny, and it can add some levity to your movie. But don't kill him off immediately. Like, I don't like that.
Me either.
Now, there are a couple other moments in this movie that go on for longer than they should. There's that part in the movie where Sandra Bullock successfully gets back into one of the space stations, and then she takes off her suit and everything, and then she floats there, and then the camera is on her that gets like floating in space with her, and then it looks like she's a baby in a womb.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the point of that was.
Yeah. I mean, I get it if she was exhausted after being out there in the suit so much that she had to relax for a minute. But like you said, I just feel like it was not really necessary.
Yeah, if you need to relax, if you've gone through hell and you need to relax, in space, I don't know if that would happen, if a character would decide to do that. By comparison, if you're talking about exhaustion, Leo got attacked by the bear in The Revenant, and then after that he almost died. But then there was lots of moments of exhaustion in the movie where you could see the exhaustion, feel it 100% based on his performance.
Of course.
Whereas if you were in space, I think if you got back in, you would have like a post-traumatic stress type of thing, and just be like, and then like move around the ship instead of just like floating there like a baby.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I like that.
Yeah.
But I think those are all the negative viewpoints I can think of, though. The movie is good. Let's talk about the readjusted score.
Yeah.
So movie has a 96%, once again, if I remember correctly. I will subtitle that here. My personal readjusted score, I would take it down to a solid 80%. Because it's not bad, but it's not best of all time. 90% movies on Rotten Tomatoes should be the best of all time movies.
Should.
I'm giving this movie a readjusted score of 80%. What about you?
I was thinking the same thing, really.
80, so okay, there's your DTArtman and Wonderbread readjusted score right there as an 80%.
Yeah.
Now, as far as what Alfonso Cuarón's going to do in the future, I want to see him make another sci-fi movie. Yeah. I really do, because
visuals is amazing.
He's shown his craftsmanship to the fullest extent, pairing up with Emmanuel Lubezki, the cinematographer who did The Revenant and Birdman and everything. I really want to see them team up again and make either another sci-fi movie or hell, make a crime thriller with a bunch of long takes. I think that would be a really good way to go on their respective career paths.
Yeah.
But yeah, so go watch Gravity if you haven't seen it. You should have already seen it by now. It looks spectacular on a 4K TV. It's a very visually stunning.
And it does deserve the Oscar nominations that it got for sound.
For technical, for sound. Not sure about Best Picture, definitely not Best Actress, but if you're going to go watch this thing, go in having no knowledge of like the critical praise it got. Go in expecting an average movie, and then you'll enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people who I've talked to heard about the critical praise and then went to go see it, but then they were let down. It's like, oh, this movie's good, but it's not a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Like that happens a lot with movies, movies that get overhyped and everything. An example of an overrated movie, if we're talking about James Cameron, like we were. An overrated movie is Avatar.
Yeah, visually
it's
stunning.
Exactly, it's a lot like Gravity, where it got so much hype, so many Academy Award nominations, and then when people heard about that and then they went to go see it, they're like, eh.
I guess they felt like it was just a modern day sci-fi version of Cowboys and Indians.
Yeah.
It's basically what that is.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's still a good film.
James Cameron is still one of my favorite filmmakers overall. I think he's a very good filmmaker. He's a little weak in some areas on like story structure and like dialogue. You know, if you rewatch Titanic, a lot of the dialogue is actually laughable.
Also depends on who wrote the film.
Depends on who wrote. Well, James Cameron writes and directs all of his own movies.
Oh, right.
Like
right.
most of them. Most of the.
Right.
I think all of his major, big budget movies, he's written and directed and produced all of them, if I remember correctly. I think he didn't produce Aliens, but like post Aliens, I think he was a producer and director on all of his films and a writer.
Yeah, and more on Avatar. He's supposed to come out with several sequels to that. So
yeah, and so if we're talking about James Cameron, I think what he should do is direct and produce his movies, but he should hire a talented screenwriter to fix all of Cameron's dialogue issues.
Yeah,
because that's Avatar. You know, it's very overrated.
Visually
it's not. I wouldn't say it's a terrible movie, but it's overrated like Gravity, just a little bit.
It's visually stunning, but the story structure could have been handled a lot better.
Yeah. Instead, he goes to stereotypes and formulaic Hollywood structure.
Although I do like the renders and I do like the designs of the Na'vi.
Yeah. I want to see Avatar sequels.
Yeah, me too.
Because if anyone's good at doing sequels, it's James fucking Cameron. Oh my god.
And since when can mountains float? I like that.
It's a dope design. All in all, though, Gravity's good. You should go see it. Lower your expectations, and then you might enjoy it far more than hearing critical praise beforehand.
Yeah.
And your readjusted score for it is an 80%. That's about it for today, I would say.
Yep, that's it for Wonderbread and DTArtman.
That's it for today. Catch you guys next time, and we are out.
Peace.